Hello and welcome back to Rams Talk, the preview show. Well, it's simple. We win 2 games of football and we are back in the championship. I say simple. It's not as simple as it sounds, is it? Because there's still a few games to play, a few tricky situations to navigate. We're looking forward to this Saturday's game against Cambridge United. The Rams are travelling in force down to Cambridge, hoping for 3 points. And to join me to preview the game is close friend and Cambridge United fan, Scott McGeorge. Scott, how you doing?
Yeah, good, Jamie. Thanks for having me on again. Looking forward to having a catch up and a chat about the game this coming Saturday.
Yeah, well, I hope it's a bit more interesting than the home game. A 0-0 result at Pride Park. Derby left very frustrated. I think Cambridge United fans actually left quite happy with a point on the board in that situation. Tell me about the season so far then, Scott, since we last spoke.
Season so far is very much similar to last season. Actually, supporters call us the BSTUs because we're just quite simply a better side in the British summertime, i.e. we start the season brilliantly and get off to a great start. Then it all goes sort of wrong going into winter. And then coming out of winter, we pick up again, which we did last season. So jokes aside, it's very identical. We've kind of had that model. When we played you earlier in the season, Mark Bonner was our manager. Things were looking quite good. It was a gritty display at Derby. I know there's a little bit of unrest, with your supporters, with the way you were playing, and Paul Warne. He's got them coming good, but yeah. So even from then, that was October time, but it was pretty rough under Mark Bonner. He hadn't won in 12 games. I think it was the right decision to relieve him of his duties. Obviously, he was a big fans' favourite, worked wonders, got us promoted in lockdown. But he was given the benefit of the doubt last season, and rightly so. But this season really was looking quite grim, with no real. Um, you couldn't see a change really. The performances were poor. We got smashed at Peterborough 5-0. We had the international break. We came back, showed no reaction from that damning Derby defeat. And I think his time was up. Further on, a couple of weeks on, we brought in Neil Harris. A good solid manager. A bit unfortunate to get sacked at Gillingham. Came in, did a really good job. The fans bought into it. He started his career in Cambridge at Cambridge City as a player many years ago, so he sort of had an affinity with the city. Neil came in and said, "I want to get this Cambridge side, that underdog tag and that gritty, Cambridge side back to how it should be." He done a good job actually. Steadied the ship. Brought Lyle Taylor in, Macaulay Bond, James Gibbons, and looked like he was steering us to safety quite probably comfortably. And then Millwall came calling, and the rest is history. He was gone in a flash, to be honest. That then left us in the lurch. And whilst that was all going on, results were going against us. We were slipping down the league further into that relegation zone. And Barry Corr took Inter in charge again, first team coach. And we've now got Garry Monk in. He had a bit of a baptism of fire. Thrashed, well, he initially got a draw at home to Northampton, which was an average performance and a solid point. But then we were thrashed away at Lincoln, an informed Lincoln, and then solidly beaten away 4-0 at Reading. And it really did look grim with about 4 points off the bottom, the last team in the four. But since then, we've had the international break. And he's played a different formation. He's brought Mamadou Joe back from Gateshead, our young defender who's been a revelation. Jack Stevens in goal's been injured, but he was out of form. Will Mannion's come in and playing really well. And we look a different outfit. We look resilient. We were flimsier earlier on in the season, conceding soft goals, but now we're quite the opposite. And we found some form. We beat Barnsley away recently, beat Wigan at home. Just went down 1-0 at Blackpool, a little bit unfortunate, and then a solid point at home to Charlton. So it leaves us, I think we're 6 points as we speak, but we've got Bristol Rovers Tuesday. I know this will go out after that. We're about 33-1 shots to actually get relegated now. So we're breathing a little bit more easier, but there's still a little bit work to do. Probably one more win, Jamie, and I think we'd be safe.
Yeah, and I think you're confident because you're over in Spain at the moment on the beach. So yeah, that's what the suntan's telling me as well. Some suntan there, Scotty. But yeah, I mean, it's been a bit of a turbulent season, like you say. I remember when Mark Bonner was sacked, and I messaged you and said, "Look, I'm surprised. I would have thought you'd have stuck with him till the end of the season, given what he's done for the club." But you said, and you made a good point that you were probably going down under Mark Bonner, and something had to change. Obviously, maybe the points that Neil Harris actually picked up might be the points that kind of keep you up. And now Garry Monk's come in. I mean, that's some name as well. You look at Cambridge's history and the places that you've been. I remember you telling me about away nights at Football League, and now to have a manager like Garry Monk and players like Lyle Taylor, Macaulay Bonne, you've definitely come a long way. Like you say there, it's almost mathematically done. Derby fans will be hoping that it's mathematically done for Saturday, so there's not too much kind of riding in it from a Cambridge point of view. You've said there about recent results, obviously some fantastic results. Charlton, Wigan, Barnsley. I mean, away at Barnsley, I was expecting you to get beat. They were still in the race for that second place at that point. What's Garry Monk kind of put into this side then? What's kind of the key difference between what you've seen under Garry Monk maybe than previously in the season under Bonner and maybe even Neil Harris?
I think first and foremost, he came in, he didn't have a lot of time to work with the players because I think he was announced on the Tuesday, Northampton was on the Saturday. So, he only had a couple of days on the training field. And then it was really tough from there. I think he learned a lot from them. Well, thumpings, as I say, 6-0 away at Lincoln, albeit they were in good form, but we let in some really poor goals. Reading away was quite damning. That was almost like the straw that broke the camel's back. Supporters were sort of booing, "You're not fit to wear the shirt," that type of thing. And it really was quite a desperate display with, no sort of spirit and heart and lack of confidence. People were questioning that. And then with the international break, done us the world of good. Gary's quite a methodical thinker. He had 4 years out of the game because obviously he had quite a few spells with championship clubs. And he went away, he spoke to top tennis players, top snooker players, just people that are in the game, just picking their brains and the science, and the mental side of the game. And I think he's tapped into our players because they were at a low ebb, they were low on confidence. So he's got across some sort of clear instructions. And with that couple of weeks in the international break, he was able to instill a different formation, which just made us a little bit more solid. We were getting quite exposed. As I said earlier, he brought Joe back from Gateshead, which was a masterstroke. It was gutsy and a bit brave, but Joe's been absolutely brilliant since he's come in. We needed that fresh face and that re-energised, faces back in the side. Will Mannion, I personally think he probably should have got the shirt at the start of the season. It's very unlucky not to, in my opinion. And he's just been terrific in goal, safe hands, saving shots and goals that, be quite honest, Stephen was probably letting in. And like you say, we just needed that bit of luck. We went away to Barnsley. There weren't a lot in it. We were sort of sitting in, and then it was a bit of a free cone goal. Their defender passed it back right past the keeper, and then we needed that little bit of luck and a lucky break. And then we've gone into second half. Gassana had me back from injury. He came on, scored a header. And we haven't really looked back since then. I think the side needed that, a bit of a lift, and going away at Barnsley just lifted everyone's spirits. And that was on the Good Friday. And then on Easter Monday at Wigan at home, we thought if we can back this up and put back-to-back wins together, we're going to prize ourselves away from that relegation zone and things will be looking good. And we followed it up with a good home win against Wigan. And season saving, I think, to get 6 points crucially over that period has just give us that breathing space. Again, not job done, but But yeah, like I say, I think Garry in the long run, I think in the long term, sorry, I think Garry Monk will be a good signing for Cambridge United with his pedigree, his age, his knowledge. I think we'll benefit with him having had the break and coming back into the game and rebuilding his career. But in the short term, it's obviously mission stay in League One. Um, we've got a lot of players out of contract in the summer, but in fairness, they're fighting for the shirt, and we'll see how it goes Saturday. Obviously, we've got Bristol Rovers Tuesday night. If we were to win there, you would say it's as good as done, and it might fall into Derby's hands that we might be a little bit more relaxed come Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock when you visit the Abbey Stadium.
Yeah, and like you said there about the back-to-back wins, you've seen at points this season that it can kind of propel you up the table, whether you're a team that's in mid-table that put a few results together, or especially down the bottom end. And I think there was a point where I looked at the table and looked at your fixtures and thought, this is tricky. You're going to have to beat the likes of Barnsley, the likes of Wigan, and hope that those around you, drop points and don't kind of take points off any of the top teams to kind of get out of it. But like you say there, it's not mathematically done, but you're kind of there. And if you do get a result against Bristol Rovers, you've got a home game to kind of relax rather than kind of threat about looking over your shoulder. You said there about Adeyemi. He's the only player that's in double figures for Cambridge this season in goals. What's been impressive about him most recently?
He's a threat in stature and size. He's a big lad, very, very good in the air, given the right service. What surprised me is how quickly from being out, he was out from just before Christmas. So to come back and hit the ground running quite like he has been impressive. So that tells me he's worked hard off the pitch. As I say, he's a threat in the air aerially. If he gets the right service from the likes of Danny Andrew, especially at set pieces, then yeah, if the service is there, he will score. I'm pretty confident in that. Holds the ball up well, brings others into play. If we can get them players in and around him, and not leave him isolated, where he can become a little bit of a lone figure and struggle a little bit if that's the case. But if you get the likes of Kachunga, Bond started against Charlton the other day and was effective, then that obviously plays into Gassan's hands. He's not necessarily quick. He's not a player that you'll play sort of over the top and through, but get the crosses in from wide. He's definitely a threat.
And there's one player that Derby fans will probably look out for. He's a match winner. He's a bit of an enigma. He's former Forest, so I'm sure he'd want to score against the Rams and get one over on the Rams. It's Lyle Taylor, like you said a bit earlier, brought in by Neil Harris. How's Lyle Taylor been since, I suppose, since Harris left and Monk kind of took over? Has there been a dip in form? How's he been playing? I know he got that suspension. So he was out for a period of time, wasn't he?
Yeah, great. Again, hit the ground running when we signed him. Came off the bench at home at Fleetwood, scored a goal. I think it turned out to be the winner. It certainly contributed to a big win when we needed one. Scored a couple away at Shrewsbury. Looked a revelation. His career was seemingly in a rut. He'd been at Wickham. He'd been without a club for many months. Been at Wickham and not really. It hadn't really worked out for him. But yeah, he looked a great signing. Looked like he'd found another home again. Obviously, Neil was probably getting the best out of him, having known him from all them years back at Millwall when Lyle was an apprentice and Neil was a fully fledged pro. And it was all going great. He got the suspension. It was off the ball sort of incident that was spotted. It was right at the end of the game against Bolton, probably a bit unnecessary. He does get fouled a lot, but he's retaliated, and it was, so he sat out for 3 games. supporters were quite disappointed in him. He missed some key games, Stevenage away, Peterborough at home, which is massive, and another one. And then, to be quite honest, it's not quite happened for him since he's come back in. He came back in, looked a little bit laboured. You know, people were questioning, is it because Harris is gone? And then he pulled up away at Barnsley on Good Friday with the groin. So, yeah, it's been a great start, but very stop-start for him. We're running out of games. Gassan's come back in. Fajiri and Okinabire's, you know, he's on the bench now and back in the fold. So, will Lyle play a prominent part? I'm not sure. I could see him maybe being on the bench, possibly on Saturday. I know he's due to be back in training this week. So he may well play a part on Saturday. And they're the types of games that I think he'll prosper in, you know, against rivals, and a bit like Macaulay Bonne, scored against Charlton. He was getting a lot of stick on Saturday and then give it the ears when he scored. And Lyle's very much the same sort of character, so I'm sure he'll be chomping at the bit to come in and play some part, and maybe, dare I say it, spoil some sort of derby promotion party.
Well, he's a natural wind-up merchant, isn't he? He's the kind of player that if he's on your side, you absolutely love, and if he's against you, you absolutely hate him. So he's proper of that nature, I guess. Who's impressed you about outside, I guess, of those two, and maybe thinking about the season in full? Who else has impressed you this season, Scott?
It's been a difficult season. No one's really stood out. Everyone's been probably played below par, if I'm being honest. The one lad I've got to mention, and I think I mentioned him when we spoke back in October, is Liam Bennett. The votes came out for player of the season actually earlier on the Cambridge United site for fans to put their votes in, and I think most put Liam down. I certainly did. The lad's been a revelation. If you look at him, he looks like he's just wandered out of year 11 at school. You know, he just belies his size, his look, but get him on that football pitch and put a strip on him. You know, he's reveling in that wing back system which I mentioned. So we're playing three at the back, and he's equally a good fullback, but he said in a presser the other day it's his favourite position and his preferred favourite position and the right wing back, because it just gives him that license to get up and down. He's like a Duracell bunny. He can go either way, doesn't run out of energy, and he just carries the ball so well. And he's quite good with the assists as well, getting crosses in the box. And so I would say, Liam is certainly one not to underestimate, and certainly keep a little eye on. He's a promising player, and I hope Cambridge United keep hold of him longer. You know, as long as they can, really. He's got another year on his triggered another year on his contract. So he's been the standout performer for me. Quite comfortably this season.
Yeah, I saw Cambridge versus Reading, and he was man of the match, and he was there kind of receiving the award. And I think we discussed this on the last pod, Scott, that we did together. And to look at him, like you say, he doesn't look like your traditional right back, right wing back, or your traditional football player, really, but just seems to go on and on. Very energetic, very well disciplined, always wants the ball. And yeah, I think he's had a really, really good season. And I think there probably will be a few clubs, maybe in this division, maybe in the division above, that are having a little look and thinking, look, he's played X amount of games. He's still of a good age. There's still a lot of development there. So whilst you'll be hoping you hang on to him, I'm sure there'll be a few that are probably maybe lining up a bid to tempt your resolve. So we'll have to see that. I mean, Derby have got a couple of right wing backs at the moment, so I don't think we're in need. But there'll probably be other teams at this level, and like I say, above that might be showing some interest. Obviously, Derby fans listening will want to know how Derby are going to come to the Abbey and win this game. What are your weaknesses, do you think, as a side,
Weaknesses, yeah. We've tightened up and we've changed personnel a little bit. As I said, we had Morrison and Bennett centre halves. With their experience, they were very good, but they were probably getting caught out with pace. Morrow's not been involved the last month or so. Zeno Rossi's played. Um, yeah, maybe the inexperience at the back. You know, if you've got the likes of Collins, etc., there's a lot of experience in that Derby side. Connor Wickham probably exploited that. It was only a minor error at the weekend against Charlton, but he said in his post-match interview, well, that was the plan, to get the ball on his chest and sort of bullying and getting in around our young centre-backs in Zeno Rossi and Mamadou Job. And he did that. He only needed a yard. He took it down his chest, swiveled and banged it in. And we just gave him that room to do that. We weren't quite tight enough. So that would probably be our weakness, I would say, because we have tightened up. Midfield was probably an area where we were lacking, but we showed plenty of resolve and bite in there, certainly the last few games, especially against Charlton. So as long as we can maintain that, we'll be all right. But yeah, maybe at centre half, if you can sort of exploit sometimes the naiveness even and the lack of experience in Rossi, if they play, of course, and Job, which there's a high chance they will. That's an area that could be exploited with it, like say, their lack of experience.
Yeah, and it's really interesting, isn't it? Because when you came to Pride Park, you played Morrison and Bennett. I mean, massive amounts of experience between them two, and they pretty much played everything in front of them. Really, they weren't tested all that much. They didn't really get out of second gear, and I think that's why I was so frustrated. Is that we didn't really lay a glove on those two centre backs. Didn't kind of make them turn towards their own goal or anything like that. And now we're coming up against the Cambridge United team potentially with two inexperienced centre backs. So it's quite funny how it changes. My question was going to be, how are you defending set pieces? Because Derby scored 3 at the weekend, which means that we're now I think we were before actually, but we've scored the most from corners and set pieces this year. So we've got big Sonny Bradley coming up from the back. So yeah, how have you been defending set pieces and corners this year, Scott?
Looked a bit vulnerable throughout the season, but again, with fear of repeating myself, we have tidied up. I think we conceded 9 corners. We didn't have a corner against Charlton. We conceded 9, and we did a good job because Charlton were like the land of the giants. Believe me, they're a big, strong, physical side. So if we were flimsy and weak, I'm sure we would have conceded on Saturday. But again, fair credit to the players. They fought, they scrapped, they obviously marked up and defended their goal in their box for their life. So if they can maintain that again, hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll be all right. Throughout the season, it's been a bit iffy, but yeah, just recently we've tightened up, and hopefully, long may that continue until we obviously get mathematically safe. How does it stand with Derby then, Jamie? Like going into Saturday, you relying on the Tuesday results? I know you're close, but how does it stand? Could you possibly be sealing promotion at our stadium on Saturday?
Yeah, if Bolton lose, then we mathematically could. So if Bolton lose tomorrow night, we are recording a little bit early. So if they lose on Tuesday night against Shrewsbury, we can win it and go up at Cambridge away. Whether they do, that's a completely different story. But yeah, I think Derby fans are very much, look, this is no disrespect to Cambridge United and Carlisle, but we are where we are because we've gone and won at places like Cambridge and beaten teams like Carlisle at home. So we just need to worry about ourselves, really. If we can win those 2 games, we're back in the promised land. So yeah, without kind of thinking too much about other teams, I think we're just thinking, let's just navigate these two results. By no means are they going to be easy, because at the moment, no game is. There's always times that are going to be tense, and you say that you might be safe, but what's to say that the Abbey Stadium's not going to be packed out? There's a feel-good feeling there, and actually Cambridge United show up and make us work for it. The Derby way is definitely to make it hard for supporters. So I'm not expecting us to kind of come and just take it from you. We're going to have to earn it. And I think Paul Warne says that in every press conference he has. So it's going to be an interesting game regardless, I think, Scott.
Well, we do make it tough for teams coming to the Abbey. We like to make it that way. Pitch is tight. It won't be anywhere near as expansive and as big as what you're used to in your home ground. The two managers that we've had visit the Abbey recently, Sean Maloney from Wigan and Nathan Jones, really got stuck in his post-match interview the other day and was slating our surface, and this is what you get at this level, and the pitch hasn't been watered in probably 8 or 10 years, he said. That's another story, but I thought he was a little bit arrogant, to be honest with you. But yeah, so obviously top sides like Derby that have a lot of the ball, zip it about. We haven't been ploughing the water on with the sprinklers like we did under Mark Bonner. So maybe a little bit of tactics and you know, behind the scenes tactics from Garry Monk and Ian Darler, the groundsman, that, you know, if we don't make it a nice slick surface, it might just, it's a good surface, but obviously the modern way now is to put loads of water on it and let it zip about. So the two managers recently have complained about that. So that could be a little bit of a, I don't think it's an excuse, but I think good footballing sides like Derby, like Wigan, like Charlton would prefer it like that. So from a Cambridge point of view, we want that. You know, we're not laying out any red carpet. So yeah, it can be a difficult place to come, the Abbey, for sure.
Yeah, it always amazes me how much water they put on the ground at Pride Park and other stadiums I've been to in the past. And even when it's raining, the sprinklers seem to come out as well at half time. So yeah, don't expect any sprinklers at Cambridge.
No, there'll be a drought at the Abbey.
Hopefully not a goal drought, Scott, because we need some goals to win some games. But my final question to you is the one we ask at the end, and that's your prediction for the game. What do you think? How do you think this one's going, Scott?
I think it'd be tight. We don't want to not giving much away. You're a good side. Can't see you coming to us and probably not scoring, but I could see us scoring as well. I'll go for one each. I think it'll be a tight affair. You know, we're finishing the season strong. I think Garry Monk's ensuring that. Whether we win at Bristol Rovers or we're safe by Saturday, you know, players are playing for contracts. I think it's a little bit of a myth sometimes about this on the beach or safe. You know, like I say, players are playing for futures and for contracts and stuff. And, you know, we're finishing the season on a high. And I think Garry will, you know, rubber stamp that. So I think, yeah, I don't think you'll get an easy ride, but I think one each, mate, I'll go for 1-1.
Yeah, I agree. I think it potentially could be tight. I think it could be nervy at stages. There'll be Derby fans that will be checking the results across the country, seeing how it affects us. Obviously, really just looking out for that Bolton result. I fully expect them to win tomorrow night, which is Tuesday. So I think the pressure's going to be on us. But I think we'll get it done. We tend to do all right. We did all right last year. That was Paul Warne's first game, actually, Cambridge away last season.
Was.
If you remember,
I think he's done it. Sorry to interrupt. I think he's done a good job, Paul Warne. Big football fan. Obviously, I follow the league closely. You know, I thought he did a great job at Rotherham. I know he come under quite a bit of stick and was receiving some sort of little bits of abuse and stick off some of the Derby supporters, and your football's not very good, etc. But, you know, I'm glad that Derby have stuck by him. I think he's a good guy. I think he's a good manager. And, you know, I would be pleased to see you to go up and rightfully get yourself back in the Championship. So whatever happens Saturday, I do genuinely, you know, wish Derby the best. I've got a few family sort of connections and that. And yeah, I'm glad they've stuck with Paul Warne because I think you've got a good guy there.
Yeah, and when we're winning, we don't really care about the football that we play, and we can all, I say it all the time, we can laugh at his jokes because he is a very, very funny guy. He's very emotional. He's got no filter. I mean, he came out in the post-match press conference on Saturday and said that he wanted one of his coaching team naked in front of the players, kind of taking a picture, which seemed really strange to say on national radio, but that's just him in all honesty. So yeah, we're loving him, and I think, you know, he's a man that came in with a plan, and hopefully it's gonna kind of come to fruition. But yeah, Scott, thanks so much for joining us, especially when you're on holiday over in Spain. I mean, that's your suntan after day one. I don't know what you're going to look like on Saturday when we meet up for a beer before the game. I
Mate,
might
you
not
won't
recognise
recognise
you.
me. No. I don't think you will. No. A lot different to the pasty Scott that was at Charlton last Saturday, anyway.
Yeah, that's very true. Very true. Well, thanks so much for listening. If you have enjoyed, please go rate us 5-star wherever you get your podcast from. If you're over on YouTube, you can come and join our squad, subscribe. You'll get alerts when we go live, and a host of other benefits. We will be back on Sunday to review the game against Cambridge, and we'll see you there. Scott, thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you Saturday.
Thanks, Jamie. All the best. Thank you.